Before I
This
start, just
conference will
confirm.
now be recorded.
Before I start, just confirm that you can hear me and see my screen. Okay. So you can, I guess you can see the screen, right?
Yes, Abhishek. Screen is visible and we can.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks for confirming. Okay. So we will start this session now. So this is the first session. So before that, I'll just like to get an overview of your relevant Tibco experience, either in 6 or BW5. So if you just tell me, so that would make that I can fine tune the course based on that.
Hi Abhishek, this is Raju.
Yeah. Hi, Raju.
I have been 5.x
Yeah, Raju, please go on.
deployment, average design, admin, development, script deployment, self-scripting, all kind of activities I have done in
Raju, your voice is
business work.
breaking. Your voice is breaking. Can you ping in the chat window?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, now it's better. Now it's better.
No, it's okay. Yeah. Uh, I have around
Yeah.
11 years of experience in Tibco Business Works. Basically, I'm working as a team
Okay.
lead in one of organization. So I had experience in development, administration, is all kind of supports in business work 5.x.
Okay.
Okay, including messaging structure, designing part, administration, infra level, and script deployment,
Okay.
all kind of aspects I worked in the Tibco business work 5.x.
Okay, that's great. That's great. And any relevant experience in BW6 or C?
W6, I have some basics idea. Actually, earlier I used to Active Matrix Business Works. I had done myself. It's like data grid and those things. BW6, I need more advanced concepts. I want to look into that as well as deployment parts, Docker and these things.
Okay.
And I have some
That's
few
fine. That's fine.
some additional things. Let's say example group activity. They have enabled some few new things in the observed in the activity level with the global 2 index. Why you need to use the global index? This kind of doubts I have.
Right. Okay, I get the general idea. That's fine. And also one more thing, means your aim for joining this course, is that for learning the tool, or is it for going for certification, or what is that?
I'm going for certification.
Okay, that's fine. Great. Thanks, Raju. So can we move on to Akshay or Namita?
Yeah, Abhishek. I work as a Tibco business events developer, and I part-timely work on BW 5.x. So like my aim was like to learn to just make myself up to date. Like I just wanted to learn how BW 6 and C are works and deployments are how they are different from the BW 5 and how the container I just want to keep myself updated, like what's going on the new technology and that thing.
Right. That's great. That's great. So did you have any experience on BW6 prior to this? Any POC or anything?
No, nothing.
Okay.
I
And
mean,
your aim?
I tried learning myself to the documents, going to the documents, but I realized that it's not much enough. I'm not able to understand completely about like properties and global variables and the deployments. Like we have BW5, we have app manage and command line deployments and all this stuff, right? So I was not able to clearly understand how it is working in 6.x. So that's what my prediction.
Yeah, that's a fact, because BW6 is quite different from BW6. So that's something, some gap is there. So that's fine. And your aim for this, learning the product or for going for certification, or both?
For first learning the product, and maybe if I'm very confident, then I will go with for certification.
Okay, that's great. That's great. And your years of experience?
I had like 4 years of experience in. I just worked on completely on Tibco B, like mostly 90% of B, and just like 30 to 40% BW.
Okay, okay, that's great. That's great. Yeah. And Namita?
Yeah, hi Abhishek. I have total years as 6 years of experience in Tibco BW 5.x, and
Okay.
I have some basic idea of BW6, but not got a chance to work on that. So I'm here for both the things, I guess, learning the product as well as will go for the certification.
Okay, that's great. That's fine. Okay, so since all of you have either very little idea of BW6 or you have not worked in BW6 at all, so that's not a problem because we will start at the initial level and I'll be covering most of the relevant concepts. There may be some we have to skip because of shortage of time, but we will cover the basics. And if you can, basic means for each and every activity, it won't be possible. But we will only skip those activities which are exactly similar to BW5. And even in those, if you have any doubts, you can ask me and we can go over those specific things. Also, in code, we will take up the specific topics as in a logical order. But suppose if somebody has any need or any special interest for some reason in a particular activity or a particular sequence that we may have covered a bit later, so you can let me know and we can cover that on a priority basis also. Okay, so that's it from my side. So let's start the session. Okay, so first today we will go at the high level over the studio overview, and we will see the steps of project creation and the generic project structure and some of the special features for BW6. And whatever concepts we do on the slide, we will try to relate that uh, using in the hands-on using the BW Studio. And regarding the software installment, so once we are done at least 3 or 4 classes, we are okay, clear with the basic concepts. I'll give you the links where you can download the trial version of the software. So the trial version of software officially that's valid for 3 months, but even after the license expires, you can work on that. So no issues there. So once you install that trial version of the software, then we will you can do hands-on on it as well, and whatever hands-on sessions we'll have, I'll set so you can try on that, and you can let me know if you have any issues and we can discuss. So that's how it's going to go. And also in my sessions are mostly very interactive. So if you feel that you have any doubts in any concepts, you can stop me midway and you can ask your questions and we will immediately refer to that. Otherwise, what we can have is that at the end of the session, we'll have a Q&A session for at least 5 or 10 minutes. Then you have any doubts regarding the session, you can ask me.
Abhishek,
Okay.
Raju,
So,
Raju
yeah.
have a question. Will
Yeah,
you
Raj.
provide any
Yeah.
environment like Citrix server connect to development environment like that? Or we have to install in our laptop, sir?
No, I will give you the links. So you can download the software and install it directly in your own laptops. So I'll be
Okay.
showing in the session, I'll be showing in my studio, and you can
Okay.
recreate the same in your part. Okay.
Okay.
So that way you won't have any dependency on me. And in case you explore a bit more, you have some issues, you can come back to me on your you can work independently, you can come back to me and we can discuss on that. So the whole batch will
Okay.
benefit it.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
sure. So with that, let's start. Okay, so firstly we will move to the studio overview. So this diagram that you can see here, this is a screenshot of the BW Studio in the standard format. So when you open this studio, this is the format that pops up. So instead of going over the slide, we will relate that immediately with the studio so that you can have a better understanding. Let me close this existing workspace. Okay, I'll start afresh. So this is the BW Studio that I'm starting. When you start it for the first time, it asks for a location, and this location is not specific to a particular project. So in BW5, where we had the location of the entire Tibco project. So in a particular designer, we used to open only one project at a time. Here, instead, we refer to a workspace, similar to what we have in other Eclipse-based BW tools like, say, BPM or business events. So you will be knowing. So here we refer to a workspace instead of a project. So that is the first difference. So let me name this something, whatever I want. And even if this folder is not created in your system, this the studio will create this folder in the background. Okay, so this is the initial welcome page that you get when you start this studio for the first time. So this gives you some full links, but we will explore how to look at the samples and links later on. So I'll move directly to the main perspective. So this is the format in which the studio opens. You can relate this from this slide also. So here, this tab on the top left, this is called the Project Explorer. So basically, all the different projects that you can have in this particular workspace, all will be listed here. The tab below, this is called the Resource Explorer. So this tab, in this tab, we have means to interact with resources which are outside the scope of the studio. Like, for example, we can interact with a file. That is, we can either copy a file from a folder location in our current machine to the studio itself, or we can drag some resource which has been created in the studio, like, say, a whistle file or maybe an application archive. We can drag that and we can place it in any location of a folder. Also, what we can do is that we, in case we have proper credentials, we can connect to some API libraries from here, and we can directly import the APIs into the directly into this project, and we can use them from the studio. So this Resource Explorer is offers much flexibility in terms of collaborating with the external stuff. Okay, so we will go over all these details in sequence. So moving on, this one, which is termed the designer, this is basically the studio where you actually design your process. So this is similar to what we had in BW5, the designer portion, and all the palettes and everything what you need to create your process, that will be provided within this box that you can see. So this box, this is a particular concept, that is BW6 is, as you know, is SOA based. So SOA, in the architecture of BW6 is SOA based, not completely. So let me give a background of this. So if you ever have any reason to work with some of the older versions of BW, say like in 6.2 or 6.1 something, so if you had an experience, and you would see that that is the BW 6.1 and 6.2, those versions are quite different from the current one that we have. The reason is that in those versions up to 6.2, Tibco BW was entirely SOA based. That is, all processes and all sub processes that could be exposed or could be invoked from a particular process those were all service based. That is, you could expose a process only as a service. There was no other means of exposure, like a direct call process or anything. That was not there. So moving on, Tibco introduced the features we are so used to in BW5, but still it is primarily SOA based. So that means consider this square box that we have here. This is called the process scope. So this view is for a particular process, and on this left and the right side are means to expose this process. On the left side there are means to expose this process as a service, and on the right side are the means to invoke other services from this process. So let me okay so let me explain this one. So this tab below, this is the process property. So this basically gives you the properties based on the view which you are collectively selecting. So suppose you have selected this entire process scope, like you have clicked anywhere in the blank space within this process scope. So the data that you will be seeing here, this view is will correspond to that particular process. If you click on a particular activity, then you will be able to see the activity details in this view. So this properties tab will change based on the particular object that you have selected. And on this right side is the palette library. So this is similar to what we have in BW5, and you will see most of the activities are similar, but definitely there are some add-ons in here. So we look at each of them. Okay. So let us whatever we have seen here, let us compare that from the studio. So this is the project explorer, as I mentioned. So all projects that you create, all will be created here. Okay. So let us create a project. So we have a lot of options here because this is primarily Eclipse based. So other than BW also, you can have other functionalities used here. Okay. But we'll limit ourselves to the BW concepts only. Okay. So now we have three options here. So we will look at what each of these three options mean. So for the timing, let us go with this application module creation. I'll explain what the significance of each of these are. Okay. So let me name the project test app 1. Okay. So forget about the other features. So we'll take that up as it comes. Let us first create a project. Okay. So this is a project we have created here. So projects in BW6 are called modules. So we have created an application module. Okay. So I could create multiple application modules here, and all of them would be listed in sequence in this project explorer. So when you expand this, you will get the internal features for this. Okay. So now by default, one process has been created, this process BWP. So this is another change also from the normal BW behavior, BW5 behavior. That is, each process and each resource that you click here, that opens as a new tab in this designer view. Okay. So suppose we have another process here. Say I'll keep it as default. So process 1 is the name. See, this is another tab that has opened with for process 1. Okay. So this is how whatever if you click any other activities, also say JMS connections or anything, that will also open as a new tab. Okay. So for each you can toggle between those views to select object that you want. Okay. So if you double click on this process name or the resource name, it will maximize to show you the designer view. And again, double clicking on this reduces to the original format. Okay. So the point I was mentioning, this square is called the process scope, and you can see the package name and the process name. This is defined here. Okay. So all activities that you create, the entire process of design, that will be limited within the scope. So this can be extended to any lengths, but the provision remains that all designing that you will do, that will remain enclosed within this process scope. And on the left hand side and the right hand side, whatever empty spaces are there, this left hand side icons you will see two, and in some scenarios we'll have three icons. So these are basically used to expose this particular process as a service. This may be either service, SOAP service, or as a REST service. On the right hand side, on the other hand, these purple icons, these basically refer to invocation of either REST services or SOAP services from within this process. So left side is for exposure and the right first is for invoking. So that this entire thing comprises the designer view. Okay, and whatever activities we need for this process implementation, those will be limited within this particular process scope. Okay, and as I said, the particular resource that you choose is reflected in this view. So this process, I have clicked on this white space. So that means when I click on this property, I'll see the process property outside this process scope. When I've clicked here, I'll see this process property. So all properties I am seeing here, these are respective to the entire process. And if I had created activity here, say read file, if I click properties view, will show me that this particular object's property. That is, for the read file, I am getting all these properties. Okay, so clear up to this point.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So moving on. So this slide shows the steps of process creation. So since we have already done that, let us look at what is given here. So we have to click the new from this icon, select this project, and we'll have the three options coming up. These three options, and when we select either of these two, we will have this wizard coming up as we saw. You have to provide the project name and the various other details. Okay, so now we come to something, a new concept called the deployment target. So as you can see in this project that we created, when it got created, this app space is coming within parentheses, both in this main application module and in this dot application. Okay, so this app space, whatever is written in the parentheses, is the default deployment target for this particular application module. If I look at the project creation wizard once again, see, after providing this project name and the version, you have this deployment target defined here also, and this is a checkbox. So that means you can have multiple selections of this one. So app space you can select, otherwise you can select container, or you can select Tibco cloud, or you can select a combination of any of this. Okay, so what this app space means? So this app space basically means the deployment target, that is this project that you are going to create, this application model that you are going to create, where it is intended to be deployed. So the default behavior for BW6 applications is that they are by default created as with deployment target as app space. That means their deployment will be on premise. So now let us have a background of what the different deployment targets are there. So when BW6 was introduced in early 2014 or 2015, its flagship product BW5 was still going strong in the market. So it was one of the leading products in the integration space. But the problem was that Tibco was falling behind because this is a highly dynamic integration scenario, and in this integration market, Tibco was falling behind because even though BW5 had very good features, very useful features, and very stable features, it at the same time its main drawback was it was a proprietary product. By proprietary product, what I mean is that all the conventions, all the processes and the concepts which were used for BW5 were specific to Tibco BusinessWorks only. There was no relevance to the industry standard. That is, no Eclipse-based development, no OSGI usage, not the industry standard that was usually maintained in other languages. So Tibco was something totally apart. So slowly, as the time went by, Tibco realized that in order to gain more market space and in order to not become extinct, it has to leverage the industry standards which the other tools, other competing tools are already leveraging. So with that, Tibco came up with this Eclipse version, and at the time, around 2013 or 2014, we see that the various products it rolled out, all those were Eclipse based. So coming to to the example of business events, say earlier till 2012 or 2013, the version was around 2.3 or 3 something. So that version of Tibco business events that was that looked exactly same as a designer. That is, it was completely a proprietary product, and all the conventions that were followed that were specific to Tibco only. From 2013 or 2014, whatever products Tibco started to roll out, like BPM, BW6, BWC, then business events from 5.0 onwards, all those came as Eclipse tool. So the looks and the internal concepts all changed. So from being a proprietary product, which was entirely removed from the standards of the market, it suddenly got into the mainstream of integration development. That is, it was on a based on an Eclipse-based platform, and it leveraged the basic features which Eclipse offers. So that made it a more flexible tool to work with, combined with the features that was already there in the BW5. So this particular Eclipse-based platform, when it came to the market, the other aspect was that till BW5, the deployment was entirely on-premise. That is, the client used to maintain a robust infrastructure of the admin environment within their own premises, and the applications were deployed in the administrator. Slowly, from 2014 onwards, when this cloud concept came into the market and it started a trend, customers slowly started exploring the concept of cloud deployment as opposed to entire complete on-premise deployment. So initially, when this BW6 was launched, Tibco maintained two products. One was BW6, one was BWC. The idea was that for most of the clients who were migrating from BW5 to BW6, their mode of thinking was like the deployment will be on-premise, just like in BW5. So for them, for the mainstream of the client base, Tibco introduced this BW6, which was a Eclipse platform, and the mode of deployment for BW6 initially was entirely on-premise, what we call app space in current terms. On the other hand, the other product that Tibco introduced, very similar product, BWC, that was aimed at only a very small proportion of the Tibco client who wanted to explore either entire cloud deployment or an hybrid model. So initially it was hybrid model. So that is part of the applications were being deployed on-premise, and some of the other applications were leveraging the options provided by cloud. So with that concept, Tibco introduced similar products, that is two products which have similar integration capabilities, but their deployment modes are entirely different. So for BW6, where on one hand, we have the deployment on app space entirely, that is on premise. For BWC, it was focused entirely on the cloud mode of deployment. And in the earlier times, there was no option, no concept of Tibco cloud integration. So Tibco hadn't introduced a separate product called Tibco Cloud. So it was only public cloud for BWC and app space, that is on-premise deployment for BW6. Slowly as the time went on, the customer preference, the client preference changed from being a ultra conservative mode of deployment like in the on-premise to a more hybrid model. So hybrid model means more, or maybe to a complete cloud-based deployment platform. So currently, what we have is that just consider this: the client base initially, when this product was these two products were separate products were introduced, the major stream of the clients opted for on-premise deployment, and a very small proportion opted for this cloud-based deployment. Now, as we move on 4 or 5 years down the line, the generic and the normal, that is the generic normal mode of deployment now is hybrid. That is, clients only maintain only a few mission critical applications, very critical and security conscious applications within their domains, that is within their premises, and the rest of the applications they deploy on cloud, because it leverages the high availability, high scalability, on-demand scalability, all these features offered by the cloud platforms. And along with this comes the option of not maintaining or not having to maintain an entire infrastructure to support that application deployment. So for these concepts, while the client preference changes, so Tibco also changed the mode of these products. So the thing that you see here, this is 6.5 version I'm using. So here we have this option of different deployment targets. In the earlier version also, say around 6.4.2 or 6.4.5, it was not like this. When you created a project in BW6, it was understood that you will be deploying that application only on premise. You won't have any option of deploying it on the cloud. Similar with BWC. That is, if you are designing a project in BWC, the intention was that you are going to deploy that only on the cloud, not on premise. But slowly, with the coming of the BW 6.5 version, there was a huge change in this perspective. So here, currently, what we have is that either if you are using BW6 or BWC, you can design the application only once, and you can, after designing the application, you can choose where to deploy. So this is a huge shift compared to the earlier version. That is, in BW6 also, when you create an application module, you have the option of creating the application module first and then deciding where you want to deploy. While making only one-time effort in development, you can modify that same development to be deployed in various platforms. So, and all BWC also from 2.4.5 onwards, I think the same features are there. That is, there once you create an application module, you can then choose where you want to deploy, either on cloud or on Tibco Cloud or on AppSpace. So both the features are similar, and both similar features are supported in BW6 and BWC. So the idea going forward is to merge these two products at some point of time when there will be no rationale left, because all the clients will be opting either to deploy on premise or on cloud or on a hybrid model. So there will be no rationale for Tibco to maintain two similar products having very close features. So down the line somewhere they will merge these two products, but currently as of now they are still increasing the versions. So 6.6 is the latest version of BW6, and 2.5 is the latest. 2.5.1 is the latest version of BWC. But feature wise, if you go to the studio and look at both these features, you will see that both are similar. Okay. So with that background, since BW 6.5 allows us to create application module once and then decide where we want to deploy, so we have this option of deployment target. So that is why the default deployment target is coming as a parenthesis here. So suppose you have created this application module as deployable in AppSpace, and after your application module creation is complete, you decide that you will deploy that in multiple locations. That is one instance of the application that will be deployed on premise, and in some other instance that will be deployed on cloud. But you don't want to change the development. So what you can do after project creation, also you can change the deployment target. So if you right click on this project name, you'll see something called configure. So configure has three options. The second one of them is the deployment target, configure deployment target. So when you click on that, first you have to save all the resources. You will see these same options appearing as was appearing in the initial wizard. That is, here after the project creation also you can change this deployment target to be something else. See, as soon as I made the deployment target change, and so the current application that you have will be deployable on container as well as an app space. So container basically means it will be deployable on the public cloud, any of the public clouds, and app space means it will be deployment or on premise. So the same application, same development, you can deploy in multiple targets. Also, you could have chosen all three of the options here, so that you could have multiple targets simultaneously defined for a particular application module. Okay. So there is a catch, of course, but we will come to that later. Okay. So for now, let us relate that from whatever we have in the slide. Okay, so this tells about the deployment target, what we saw, that even after project creation, you can change the deployment target. Okay, so this is the catch for changing the deployment target. What we can see here is the project library, palette library that is supported for the deployment target app space, that is for on-premise mode of deployment. So if you count this number of palettes, you'll see there are 14 palettes which is supported for app space. Now the next diagram shows the palette library support for a project, for an application module whose deployment target is all of app space, container, Tibco cloud. If you count the number of palettes, you'll see that there are only 10. So that means some of the activity palettes which were supported in this app space level, in this app space deployment target, those are not supported in an application module whose deployment target is a combination of all this. So for an application having a deployment target set as Tibco cloud and app space and container, you will have support of 10 palettes. So what are the palettes are missing? So first, so the most restrictive of this deployment target is the Tibco cloud. So if you choose container, okay, let us verify this from the studio also. That will make it easier for understanding. So suppose this is the first one. See, this read file that we created a while earlier, this is something, this is showing as an error here. And if we go to the error, we'll see what that is. This is not supported in Tibco cloud. So that means some activity that you would have created in the project when the deployment target was different, that may not be supported when you change the deployment target. And if that is the case, then the existing activity will reflect like this, an error like this. So that means, that implies that you'll have to either change that activity, remove that activity, or you have to implement the same functionality using some other means which comply to your current deployment target. Okay, so let me delete this. Yeah. So this is let me change this back to deployment target of app space. So app space, as we saw from the slide diagram also, app space is the most least restrictive. That is, here you will have 14 palette support. Okay. So let us change the deployment target in steps. Let us change this to container. Okay. So in container, if you count these pallets, you will see there are 13. So which one is missing? The RV is missing. So that means since RV is Tibco's own proprietary messaging, that is not supported in the public clouds, in any of the public clouds. So that is why any activity, any RV activity that you may have in your application model initially, when you created that application with a deployment target as app space, that will not be supported once you change the deployment target to container. Okay, so you'll have to remove the RV activities, or you have to implement it using other supported messaging like JMS. Okay, so let us change this now to the third option, that is Tibco Cloud. So see, for Tibco Cloud, we have 10 activities. Okay, so other than the RV, which was not supported in container itself, along with that, we have others like the file activity, like TCP and the FTP. So all those uh, activities which require you to have temporary storage, like say a temporary file in a particular location, those activities are not supported any longer. The reason is that since we are talking of a Tibco cloud-based model, so there are a number of instances that will be created, and the request that is coming in. So this Tibco cloud is REST-based. So we'll go into the concept of SOAP and REST some other time. So just for the timing, we will conceptualize REST as something which is self-sufficient. That is, it does not maintain state, and since it doesn't maintain state, so all the requests coming in for a cloud for application which is deployed on Tibco cloud, a static file creation is not possible, because the request can come in to any of the instances, and that instance will have to cater. But if it is a file which has been created by the earlier instance run, and that is referred to in the second run, that will not work. So file based or the static resource based activities, those are not supported here. Okay, so that is the catch for changing the deployment target after the application model has been created. So, and another thing, if you have a combination of the deployment targets, that would mean, in this case, let us see what happens if we have a combination of all these deployment targets. Okay, so this is still 10. That means the number of combination of the deployment targets that you have for a particular application module, that will be determined, the palette support will be determined by the most restrictive deployment target of them. That is, here, since we have Tibco cloud also in this combination of deployment targets, we will have a support of 10 pallets only. But if the case was like this, that we change this, we delete the option of Tibco Cloud altogether. The next most restrictive deployment target is the container. So we will have this palette support will be dictated by the palettes that is contained by the that is supported by a, container deployment target. So the number of palette support will be 13 in this case. So only the RV is not supported here. Okay. So let us relate this to the slide. So this basically repeats what we just saw about the palette activity support. Now coming to the project structure. Okay, so this is the generic project structure for an application module. So by generic, what I mean is that another concept is that BW6, since it is Eclipse based, it also complies to the Maven folder structure, Maven compliant folder structure. So that means each of these folders which we have here, these are unmutable. That is, these particular folders will contain only resources of a particular resource type only. That is, this processes folder can only contain resources which are of type process, which have an extension of BWP. So like we had the dot process files in BW5. Similarly, we have these dot BWP files in BW6. And the internal structure, if you compare, that is entirely different compared to what it was in BW5. Okay, so this process folder can contain only processes. So how we can verify this? If you right click on this process in this process folder and try to create a new resource, we will see only those resources which are supported. And what are those? Packages you can create. So you can create multiple packages, just like any other project in Eclipse. You can create packages, and within that you can create BusinessWorks process, BusinessWorks REST resource, which is again a process of invocation type REST, and BusinessWorks subprocess. So ultimately, the bottom line is you can only have resources of type process in this particular processes folder. Similarly, for resources, you can have all these types of shared resources which are shared across the application module. Okay, the connection resources. For service descriptors, on the other hand, we can have only resources of type physical. Okay, so that means this folder structure is completely fixed. Since this is Maven compliant for BW6, you cannot, unlike BW5, where you could have created any number of folders and as per your convention and name them anywhere, anything, and could have put any type of resources in any folder. That is not allowed. So that is another major shift from BW5. That is, you have specific folders for specific types of resources. Okay. So, and this ordering is based on the Maven concept. So all the projects that you will see which are Maven compliant, all this will have this similar sort of project setup. Okay. So another thing in this regard, let me go to this initial project creation wizard. Let me provide some name. Okay, so the resources that you see here, these are all the resources that you see on the left side of your screen. That is the similar project structure that we have in this test app one. Similar thing will be created for the other application that we were going to use. If you go to the next step, you will see that you can name these folders. So basically, the schemas folder you can name whatever you want. Processes folder you can name whatever you want. All these folders you can name as per your preference. But the catch is that since these folders that you see here, these are not the folder names. These actually represent the folder types. So if you move to the next screen, you'll see that BW processes folder. and the folder name you can define. So that means even if you define this as processes 1 to 3 and create this process, create this application module. See, in this process folder that has been named processes 1 to 3. But if you right click here and see the resources supported, you will still see only the process type of resources. So that means whatever name you give as per your convention, ultimately this is a process type of folder which will contain only process type of resources. So the same applies for the other folders as well. That is, you can rename them as per your convention, as per your preference, but ultimately they will be their inherent type that will be totally unchanged for each application module. So you can place only resources of specific types in specific folders. Okay, and all this is because this BW6 is totally Maven compliant. Okay, so this is the general structure of the project. It contains an application, a project module, and a project application. So the module, as is given here, is used for development. That is all developments that you do, that is in the project module, and the project application is for deployment of that particular project module. So here, if you relate this from the studio, this one, test app one, this is the project module, and this test app one dot application is my project application. So this test app one, whatever I do here is used for the designing, and whatever I design in this application module, that will be reflected in the project application, and this project application will then be used for the deployment. So whatever, this is the base resource for creation of an application EAR. Okay, so keep in mind, so this is the generic structure. Other than this, if you go to the project structure, you will have this format like processes, service descriptors, as we know, holds visuals. Resources is for holding the various connection resources. Schemas is for holding either JSON or XSD schemas, as you can see here, schema or JSON. Policies are for holding security policies, and module descriptors, these are for defining the various module properties which are similar to global variables and other shared resources like shared variables. So those things are there along with something, some extra features. Okay, so this is the format. Module descriptors, as we saw, these are the features, but we'll have to look at them in details. Okay, so I'll stop at this because this is the first session, so I don't want to rush. So whatever doubts you have regarding whatever we saw in this session, you are feel free to ask. Guys, any issues, any doubts you have regarding what we learned today, you can ask.
Abhishek, we said that we are having 6.5 version with which we can deploy to cloud as well as on-premise. So are we saying that C will be deprecated soon, or I mean, I'm asking for certification purpose, which should we target?
See, certification purpose. See, there are two perspectives here. So when I say BW6 can be used for deployment in app space as well as in cloud, there is a catch here. The project that you create in BW6, that is that can be designed in a format which is deployable in cloud also, but the primary mode of deployment for BW6 is still app space. If you want to deploy actually your project on cloud, what you have to do is you have to take help of certain things called containerization. So basically, you have to your project that you have changed the deployment target as container, which means that Tibco Studio has packaged your code in a certain format, which is deployable on cloud. Okay, but that said, you have to actually turn your application into a container before you can deploy on cloud. And that containerization support for Docker or Pivotal Cloud Foundry, that is exclusively still there for BWC. Okay, so what we can do, the shortcoming that we have now is that you can create your code and change a deployment target to be deployable on cloud. But for the actual deployable, you have to extract your project and recompile that code in BWC. Only then you can use the Tibco provided build packs. There are something called build packs, which are used for creating the base image for Docker. So you can use that utility, and that utility Tibco has released only for BWC, not for BW6. Okay. So from certification perspective, both are important, but the general trend that we see is that most clients prefer to move directly to BWC from BW6. That is obvious because cloud deployment is more of a norm these days compared to AppSpace. But that said, AppSpace is Tibco's own development, own deployment scenario. So you will be in a good position if you have an exposure to both of them.
Okay. And development wise, both IDs will be same. I mean,
Development wise, both IDs are same, exactly same, because they even use the same version
exactly.
of Studio.
Okay, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Abhishek.
Yeah. So anybody, any other question, anything, any doubts you have, you can freely ask me.
Hi Abhishek, Raju.
Yeah, hi Raju.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yes.
hi Raju. Please
Today's
continue.
session is looks good. Today's session is looks good. It's fine. The basic understanding is looks good. Actually, I would like to
Okay.
know what are the topics you are going to cover this complete course.
Okay. So let me give a brief background, a brief overview of what we are going to cover. So initially, we will be moving through these familiarizing sessions, first 2-3 sessions. That will be basically for familiarizing you with the BW layout, Studio layout. From the fourth session onward, I will be sharing that link where you can install that Studio yourself. After that, we will be moving on to the more deeper concepts. We will be having that exposure in the session, and you can follow it up yourself in your Studio version. So we will look at the deeper concepts like the various module properties are there, the application modules are the shared modules, what are those, how those are used, how they are related. Then we will move on to the more basic concepts like the main essence of the BW Studio, and the main signifying factor is the services portion. So we'll be moving on to that. That is the service and the rest. So that will be taking up around. We will be moving on in the normal batches that I do. We move to the services around 16, 17 session. So before that, we will be covering the other core concepts. So after we cover the rest sessions, rest and soap, that will take around say 23, 24 sessions, or maybe 25 sessions. After that, we will have the BW6 deployment for AppSpace. So we look at the entire administration.
Okay.
Yeah, Raju, you can hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So after we complete with the Studio, we'll be moving on first to the AppSpace deployment. So we'll be seeing both the GUI and the scripted forms of deployment, how you can use that for deploying yourself in the Tibco managed administration, that is a TEA. And once that is done, we will be dedicating the rest of the classes for deployment on cloud.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
It's okay.
So in cloud we will be covering both the containerization as well as deploying on the Tibco cloud.
Yeah. Actually, we need to do more error handling part. Actually, we need to cover, and the schema creations
We will have
also that
sessions.
should be that should be
Absolutely.
required.
Those will be included in the core concept. Yes,
Yeah.
those are included in the core concept.
Yes. Yes. From my end is
That
okay.
will be
It's
covered.
okay. So what I
Okay,
understood today,
that's
just
great.
you have explained the business studio
Mm-hmm.
and changing the deployment target missions. What are the activities palettes are
Correct,
available?
correct,
This is the
right,
conclusion of our this session.
correct. Yes,
Yes.
and these concepts that we are going to cover now, we will be
Hmm.
relating back to these every time in our next few sessions, so that this is clear to you, as well as you will see how and where exactly these concepts fit in that entire picture.
Yes. Yes. Okay. 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 Fine.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Anybody else? Any doubts? And also, if you feel I'm moving a bit fast, let me know. I'll slow down my pace. So it's the entire thing is focused on your understanding rather than my giving the lectures. So whatever you feel, make the sessions interactive. Whatever doubts you have, you can ask me. Also, after the sessions, also if you will get the recordings, and anyways, I'll be sharing the slides after a specific number of sessions. So if you have any doubt, then also outside our session timings, you can get in touch with Visual Path. They will mail me with your questions, and I'll reply back as soon as I can.
And Abhishek,
Yeah,
will you share these PPTs also to with us, right? After actual session
absolutely.
started.
I'll be correct. So I'll be sharing these
Okay.
slides after a specific number of sessions. Also, at the end of the session,
Okay.
since your most of this batch is interested for the certification, I'll be sharing some materials that I
Mhm.
have used for my own certification for PW6. So I'll be sharing those.
Okay. And as well
Okay.
as
Yeah.
simultaneously we will do some work, right? Suppose today you are doing something. So as of my experience, I
Mhm.
am doing some new things. I can expose to the entire team. Then we can discuss also, just hardly 5 to 10 minutes. If I have any doubts also, we can clarify in that part.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can clear your doubt at the either start or at the end of this session in the QA segment.
We
So you
have
can do
any
that.
separate
So no issue.
start session, not part of the training session. After finishing the training session, will you spend with us at least 10 to 15 minutes? Have any separate chart or how we need to communicate?
For communication after the session is done, so what we do currently, so in the initial batch also, what there were some doubts for people, so that they were facing in some interviews or something. So we from
Hmm.
time to time we connect to them, and whatever
Hmm.
doubts they have based on the student interest, we do those
Okay.
sessions. So means I am
Okay.
open for you if you have any doubts or interviews or any other things.
Sure.
Just
Sure.
let me know and
Okay.
we'll have to sit.
Yeah. 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 Fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay. Anybody
Okay.
else has any other questions, any doubts?
I'm good, Abhishek.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so then we'll end the session now. We will continue the session from where we left off today in tomorrow's session, same time. So hoping to see all you there. So that would be all. Good night to everybody. We'll meet tomorrow. Thanks, guys, for joining.
Thanks, Abhishek. Good night.
Yeah, yeah. Good night. Good night to everybody.
Good night.
Yeah, bye.
Hello.